I think we might be miscommunicating a bit.
No, no, no.
No. Hold on. I'm gonna stop it here. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna reflect and talk with people
Absolutely,
and
thank you.
reflect on
Fine.
my
Get your
positions.
dumb ass out of here. You literally are talking all this shit, and you come on, you can't fucking defend any of your fucking shit because you haven't fucking thought it through. I
Oh
have. My position is
oh
completely fucking consistent. I will argue for the rights of fucking trans people. And you are fucking pathetic that you will literally harass me for fucking months with this shit. Come on, get basic fucking questions that you probably haven't even thought about because you're in your fucking basic ass bitch Twitter bubble and you can't fucking answer them. So you sit silently because you can't refund the question. Now you're just gonna fucking dip. Yeah, fucking run away because you can't defend your dumb ideology. I'm really fucking sorry. I'm gonna be here fucking base this arguing for the rights of fucking trans people because people who are trans cannot choose not to be trans. All right, where do you want to start then?
well, I want to start with why you think xenogenders and neopronouns are like destructive to society or harmful in some way.
I think they harm trans people, and I guess if you have an issue, you should take it up with Vosh as well because he agrees with me. Even though,
Well, Vosh said that in a broader sense that it can harm the movement towards gender abolition, but he didn't say that should then lead to us invalidating xenogenders.
no, but do you understand if someone says, "Hey, it's harmful for trans people, but I'm going to do it anyway because like lunatics like you and their audience are going to come after them," isn't the same as saying, "Hey, this is bad." So, do you think if something's bad, that you probably shouldn't do it, and you saying, I'm actively going to do the wrong thing or what I think is wrong and actively harms trans people is probably a bad move just because the people from your audience are going to like come after you for it?
It depends on how for one, it depends on how you define that harm and how much harm it really does in the long run. Because say we are even to allow xenogenders and all that stuff to exist, there are mechanisms by which our language would evolve to eventually allow for those things to exist without any like clunkiness or general like what's the word? General ease. So a lot of this like utility stuff and pushing for it hurts trans people because it still holds up like these gender expectations or whatever. I mean, language is fluid. It can morph and change over time. And so I don't see this as a particularly like great argument against xenogenders.
I think it is, and part of the reason why I say it's like utility based like argument. Here's what I fear in regards to xenogender stuff, right? So, stop me if I'm wrong. Xenogender people identify with something, whether it's a helicopter, which apparently is super fucking valid, or whether it's a cuttlefish, which is super fucking valid, but they're not actually those things. They're just in like a preference, a way that they express themselves, but they're not actually those things.
Generally.
Cool. And then but a trans person, like a trans woman or a trans man, they actually are the thing that like identify as, right? When someone says I'm a trans woman, they're not saying I'm a man that identifies with women. They're actually a woman, correct?
So what do you mean by like actually a woman?
Okay, so we're gonna deconstruct womanhood. Great. Okay, so do you understand that if we say they are valid, and xenogender people say this themselves, that we've like literally like accepted that hey, trans women are women, right? Are trans women women now?
Generally, yeah. Yeah.
Generally, yeah. Are you invalidating like certain trans women?
No, I'm just saying that yeah, yes, that's typically
Okay,
how like
okay,
transitioning works.
okay. Then you don't have to like say like generally. You can just say yeah, trans women are women. All right. So, but xenogender people will say this themselves that they're xenogender. They're not actually the xenogender. Correct? They're not actually a fucking helicopter.
Oh, no, but like that does
Okay,
so
okay,
so
so then
well
here's my question, Al. If they're both trans, right? How?
right.
What's to? In what framework that is consistent can this say like a? Will it not allow people to attack the validity of trans women and trans men, by saying, "Oh, they're not actually men. Like trans women aren't actually women, and trans men aren't actually men. They're just people that identify with like the opposite gender." Feels like Blanchard.
So wait. You can say pretty much the same thing about women, like cis women. Like cis women typically identify as women, but there's nothing inherent to being a woman. There's nothing that essentializes down to being a woman. It's just something that we socially construct.
What is the social construction? I'm sorry, I'm getting super triggered. What is the social construction?
I'm not going to engage with the moderator. I'm sorry.
All right.
If you're gonna moderate, I would much rather engage with the person.
This because you guys have obviously a different definition of what social construction means. So can you define what a social construction is?
Typically, a mechanism by which we I don't know. It's really hard to define, but like something that we create as humans to serve some sort of social function. Yeah, something that we create, like a concept we create to create a social function within our society.
You think that's the only thing? So if they're entirely arbitrary, like 100%, right? And we could reshape them at will if we just had like the wherewithal.
Yes, because our conceptions of gender has...
So they are. So they're entirely arbitrary. So then tell me, why can't someone who's experiencing dysphoria just think they're like the proper gender and no longer be dysphoric if it's 100% arbitrary?
So there's a difference between gender dysphoria and identifying it with a xenogender. Because gender dysphoria doesn't always have to be...
I'm not saying just gender dysphoria. I'm saying, right... How, if they're 100% arbitrary, why do trans people exist? Like, if you can just be the different thing, if you can just, you can just fit back into your like whatever like gender you start with. Why can't you just do that? Why do we even like? Because essentially, because you're saying if it's 100% arbitrary, then like being trans is a choice. I don't think it's a choice. Is it a choice?
Wait. So what if it's a choice? If it's a choice, so what?
Because if it's a choice, then you can just choose not to be trans. Like, then why do trans people even exist? Apparently, like, they experience a lot of discrimination. Why don't they just choose not to be trans? And if we're talking about,
there's a
socially constructed things that are 100% arbitrary.
There's a difference between gender dysphoria and being trans. You can be trans without gender dysphoria.
Yeah, I understand that, but why don't you? I assume it still bothers people who don't have gender dysphoria to like be misgendered, right? If gender is 100% arbitrary,
typically yes, because they've been socially conditioned to be that way.
If it's 100% arbitrary, why can't they just throw off the social conditioning? Why can't they just like go beyond and stop being?
I think you're conflating arbitrarity with being able to do something. Like arbitrarity doesn't have anything to do with just being able to say something different or be something different. It's
you literally said that like all of gender is arbitrary, and like are you saying that there's some like underlying thing of like realness to gender?
No.
Okay, cool. Then you are saying it's 100% arbitrary. So then why don't they just change it?
But that doesn't mean it doesn't have effects on people and have, impacts on people's psyche.
Why can't they just change their mind then? If they're experiencing
they can, and we should accept them to be that way.
So you're telling me that someone can just choose not to be trans. Like they're trans, they're experiencing dysphoria, they can just stop being trans.
No, because the way our society.
So you're saying we can convert them out of their trans. You're now saying that it's possible that we can just convert these people out of being trans.
No, that doesn't logically follow. Just because someone develops PTSD or something like that, doesn't mean they can like reason themselves out of that PTSD. It's a reflex that their mind has developed.
PTSD has like physiological features about the disorder. You understand that, right?
Sam Sonso, shut the fuck up. This is my conversation. Like you want to talk to me, we can talk to me.
I know. Well, let me address that point. Let me address that point. PTSD, yes, has physiological effects on the body, but that is something that is created from a traumatic event and something that has affected that individual. And that's what I'm getting at. Is that gender dysphoria isn't just isn't like this physiological thing that happens due to gender being like a real thing or whatever. It's based on the social structures that we've created and all the gender expectations we've created that affect people in this way.
But Al, do you understand by saying that there isn't something inherent, like internal, to give some justification to the gender?
I'm not saying
no. Shit, let me fucking finish. I'll let you talk, and I stop them from yelling at you. You're welcome. I'm such a nice fucking guy. So. If it's a choice, which you explicitly said it was, you said, what if it was a choice?
No.
Is being trans a choice or not, Al?
Bro, so it depends on depends on what you mean. Wait, no. I'm not gonna have you RGR me on this. No, depending on this on the situation, it can be a choice.
How?
But if let's say someone doesn't have gender dysphoria and decides, I don't really care one way or another if people perceive me as a boy or a girl, I'm going to be non-binary. That doesn't require gender dysphoria or some sort of discomfort with their gender.
But again, they don't have a preference that they want to go to. Why can't they just change their preference? Why can't they just make the choice to not do it? Why can't they just choose not to do that?
Some people do. That's what non-binary. A lot of non-binary people do.
So I have a question then. So I have a question then. So if you're saying someone can choose to be trans or not trans, right? If they are trans, you can just choose not to. Would you be in favor then? Would you say allow people who want to choose to change themselves to get some assistance, right?
Sorry, say again.
We're talking about conversion therapy, dumbass. I was gonna say it, but I'm gonna let you fall into it. But specifically, why, if it's a choice, why do people choose to be trans?
Well, for one, I never said that broadly it's a choice to become trans. I'm just saying it can be, and that even if it is a choice or isn't a choice,
you can't say it's a choice for some people and not for other people, and then say it doesn't matter. It does fucking matter. It absolutely
no, it doesn't. How does it matter whether or not it's a choice?
Because if it's a choice, then why do I have to respect something if they can just change it? If they can just choose not to be trans, why do I have to respect their gender?
Not everyone can necessarily choose to be
Hy
trans.
not? You said it's 100% arbitrary.
Because,
because
because as I said before, some people suffer from gender dysphoria, which is classified as a mental condition.
But if gender dysphoria is 100% arbitrary, how can gender dysphoria just they can just
I never said gender dysphoria was completely arbitrary. I'm just saying it's a result of our arbitrary gender expectations.
So you're saying if we abolish gender dysphoria doesn't exist?
It might exist somewhere.
How can it exist if gender's abolished?
It can exist with someone being born with a male body, but wants to have female genitalia or something like that. That could still possibly exist.
And how is that so that's not gender dysphoria then? When that's just sex dysphoria. They just want to have a different organ.
Yeah.
So gender dysphoria would not exist under gender abolition.
Not as we understand it, I guess.
Not as we understand. Okay. But it would still exist. So even though gender is completely gone, people still have gender dysphoria. So does that mean there's some underlying thing that makes gender not 100% arbitrary if gender dysphoria can still exist under gender abolition?
Sorry, say again?
If gender dysphoria, which is very much tied to a person's gender, still exists under, if we fully gender abolitionist aside our society, then does that not mean there's something inherent to the gendered experience of people? If they can experience dysphoria even when we've abolished all the social constructions of gender.
Sorry, I'm thinking about this. Because we're talking about something that might
because under that system, why can't they just choose not to feel it? Because again, I'm asking you 100%, Al. If someone has dysphoria, because say, oh, I'm a man, but I feel as if, but I feel actually my real gender is woman, right? And I'm experiencing dysphoria. Why can I not just say, hey, my true gender, because the choice is man, and then dysphoria gone?
Sorry, say that again.
So, if gender is 100% arbitrary, as you said, and people can choose, if I'm a man, right, and I'm experiencing dysphoria because I'm actually a woman, right? So let's say I'm a trans woman, right? Why can I not just choose my preferred gender to be man and then no longer experience dysphoria anymore? Why can't I do that?
Because gender dysphoria is a specific condition. Like you're conflating gender dysphoria and gender identity very hard in this.
No, I'm
this
not.
Right now.
Or you can just say,
yes, you are.
No, or
yes,
you
are.
Or you could say that people quite literally have an actual preferential identity that does not change. And if they aren't there yet, it's because they don't know it yet. Because essentially what you're saying is that you can both turn someone trans and turn a trans person cis. If you're saying it's 100% arbitrary. That's what you're stipulating right now.
I don't think so, because as I've said before, gender dysphoria is a separate issue from
not even talking about dysphoria.
Gender identity.
We can drop dysphoria if it makes you more comfortable. Someone who just wants to be like a trans woman, right? Wants to be a woman. Why not? Why don't they just choose to be a man instead? Or if I have like a again, this is another argument as to why I feel like this is really fucking bad.
Like I said, I think
can I finish? No. Can I finish? Can I finish the question?
Hold on.
The question. I know you're afraid of the question. Like, so let me just fucking finish it, please. Like, so the question is, even without dysphoria, if you can choose your gender, why don't we just take all the people who don't have dysphoria and say, hey, like if they're experiencing problems, whether it's say social ostracization or like personal internal struggles, again, you can still struggle. Like, being a trans person without dysphoria, right? I think we can it's pretty clear about that. So why don't we just say, hey, just change your preference, and because of 100% arbitrary, you're no longer that, and you should feel fine.
Hans, like I said, you're confusing arbitrarity with the ability to do something. Those are two completely separate things. Just because gender is arbitrary doesn't mean I'm all of a sudden gonna choose to be a woman. Like
moderator time.
No,
I'm gonna
shut
jump in here.
Okay.
Define what arbitrary means. Muting.
Arbitrary. Hold on.
No worries. Normally, like when they say it, like you can say that it's the dictionary definition that most people use, say, oh, it's based on like random choice or personal whim. It's not like based on a system or like reason, right? It's like, say, if my bedtime is arbitrary, I'm not going to sleep because, let's say, it's getting dark out or because I'm tired. I'm just like randomly rolling a dice and going to bed. So when we say that it's like arbitrary and you can do whatever you want, I still dislike the idea that you can choose to be trans or choose to be cis. Because again, what's like question, right? And this goes back to the utilitarian thing. If a Republican says, hey, your schools are going to try and turn my children trans, and we say, no, that's impossible. I'll say, no, that's impossible. You'll say, actually, it can turn them trans. Which again, I have no issue with being trans. Sorry, like with the kids being trans. But you understand from a utility-based argument that like right now, that's really, 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 really fucking bad.
Hold on. I'm going to go get something to drink.
All right, take your time.
Hey, Han?
What's up, buddy? How am I doing?
I'm going to Roblox. I'm actually going to go downstairs. I'm going to pour myself a shot of vodka. I'm going to become an alcoholic because of this.
It's fine, dude. You can just choose not to be an alcoholic. Alcoholism is arbitrary.
I'm out of nicotine. I have no alcohol. Fuck my life.
I don't understand why it's so hard for people just to say, hey, there are internal preferences that really don't change.
I don't know why it's so hard for people to just accept people as they are and let them live their fucking lives.
That's a great You're getting it. So were you here the whole time? Like, were you just Googling? Were you not actually getting water? I'm curious.
No, I was actually going to get water.
Okay, so can you answer the utility argument then? What are we supposed to say?
What?
If you can choose to be trans, why can't we say, like, argue for people to say, like, one, I don't have to respect it because you can just choose not to be trans. Or I don't have to respect someone being cis because they can just choose to be trans instead of cis.
Well, so if people can't choose to be trans, then how do you explain non-binary people that don't experience gender dysphoria?
If they can't choose to be trans, say that again.
Like if people can't choose to be trans, how do you explain non-binary people that that don't have gender dysphoria?
Then they just don't identify with.
I'm so sorry. I don't know if I can actually host this fucking conversation because there's some weird No, hold on. There's transphobia coming out of this fucking person. All right, this is really
Jesus,
fucking weird,
bro. All right, fuck. All right, LeftistOwl. I'm gonna unblock you and we can have a conversation elsewhere. Okay.
All right.
There's just like an unimaginable. Really quick, you can come and talk to me afterwards, LeftistOwl. The things that you are saying are transphobic as fuck. I don't know if you understand that. But you do not. I don't think you understand the implications of the things that you're saying. It is actual transphobia, the things that you're saying. It is unbelievable that you would come in here and try to fight with Hans about him being a transphobe while regurgitating these dog shit takes that are so fucking transphobic. I don't even feel like I can have them on my show without it being like really fucking bad. All right? I'm hopping out for a second.
Okay then.
Okay, Al, do you understand that if we say that it's entirely arbitrary and it's complete choice, do you have to?
I'm not saying that every decision made about gender is a choice.
But you just said you can change your gender. You can be trans. You can choose to be trans.
Yeah, you can.
How?
Like, as I said before, non-binary people that don't experience gender dysphoria. If that's not like a choice, then I don't know, how you can, classify that.
They just don't.
Like
they just don't identify with either gender, and that's their preference, is not identifying with either. They didn't choose that. Like, they just didn't identify with either.
And how do you explain Destiny then?
He doesn't have a strong preference. So
exactly.
No, he doesn't have like to the point where his preference is just non-binary. He doesn't prefer man, he doesn't prefer woman. So he's just like, hey, my preference is to really identify with neither of them. That's still a preference. And if he could choose to be one or the other, then I wouldn't have to respect his non-binariness, because it's a choice. He can choose to not be that. I can just say, hey, I don't have to respect. Again, you can use this on cis people too. Like, if you're worried about me being a transphobe, you could be a cisphobe.
People can choose what name they have. They can change their name. Are you going to suddenly?
Are you really saying that names are the same as gender?
No. I'm not saying that they're the same, but I'm just drawing a parallel.
Okay, but like, it's completely like irrelevant. Like, it's superfluous.
Not necessarily.
Explain.
Like if I choose to go by a different name and change it legally, and then someone constantly calls me my previous name, like that's kind of a dick move, right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't call them transphobic.
I wouldn't either.
Especially if they could just change their name. If you could change your name, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're under no obligation to call me Hans. You can call me dumbfuck. You can call me asshole. I don't have to call you Al. I can call you fuckstick. I can call you idiot, right? But I don't think either of us would be considered transphobic for not doing that. But what we're saying is that we're invalidating identities because,
right?
And I would say what we're doing that because people can't choose what they choose to identify as. They are either trans or cis or non-binary.
I don't really believe that, because I think people's identities change over time.
In what way?
In every way. Like, I don't believe half the stuff I used to believe. I used to be transphobic, and that changed.
But that's not your gender identity.
Like, yeah, I understand that. But I've also become less like attached to the idea of being a man. Like I think that's changed over time.
Okay. Someone says that there are static parts of our identity and some are transient parts of your identity and states and traits. So if you're just saying, hey, I no longer strongly identify with X, do you understand that if I could say, hey, how about you just keep feeling like X, I don't have to like respect your new thing because you can just change it. It still invalidates like the existence of people who absolutely need their like things validated because they can't change. Because I think some people cannot change.
So I was reading a message.
It's okay. And even if you like your preferences have like changed, that's still like an unconscious choice, right? Like you're not like
I mean,
you're saying like, oh, like my preferences have changed so much, and like for a lot of people who are trans, they like they grow into it over like the course of like their lives, right? But like there's still like that progression. They didn't just up and one day and say, you know, I'm gonna be trans today. It's like it was like a long, steady process of like them like figuring out their identity. They didn't just say, I'm trans today, I'm cis today, I'm a man today, I'm a woman tomorrow. Like, no, that's not what they do. Your identity.
Well, the thing is that if someone, you know, ended up doing that, like just you know, deciding, hey, I want to be a man today, hey, I want to be a woman tomorrow, I wouldn't have an issue with that.
Okay, I know you wouldn't have an issue, but you understand that people who cannot change, that like people like saying the baseline that people can just choose to change is extremely like invalidating. Because
I'm not saying so. Yeah, people can choose to change, but I'm not saying that's like inherently good or inherently bad.
I'm not. I would say that it is bad because of like the utilitarian effects of like what that means for the discourse. Because if everyone can change, then literally every person can just say, dude, ma'am, whatever, what have you. You can just be different. I don't have to like in any way change the society for you. We don't have to do like affirmative surgeries, affirmative like medicinal treatment, right? Because I want people, say like trans people, like who want hormones or like say like bottom surgery or like sort of like a affirmation surgery in like other ways to be able to get it. I assume like on healthcare. But if I can just say, hey, fucking like fix it, that feels like a utilitarian argument to say, hey, anyone who like has like any issues in terms of like the gender issues that they can just like feel away and choose to be something else, then I would just say fucking choose to be something else. I don't have to fucking pay for your shit anymore because you can just choose not to be trans.
I think there's a distinct difference between, you know, choosing to be trans and dealing with gender dysphoria.
Say it again.
I said that I think there's a difference between choosing to be trans and choosing to alleviating gender dysphoria. I don't think that being trans is the end all, or I don't think gender dysphoria is the end all be all of being trans.
I'm not saying it is either. People can be trans.
But you're implying that through your argument. You're saying that the existence of people who can choose to be trans invalidates the people that don't choose to be trans, which it doesn't.
Can everyone change their gender as they wish? Can they choose their gender at any time? Because that's what it means when it's 100% arbitrary. If you say it's not, then you're telling me that there's underlying things. I don't think
everyone can. Like I said, there are people with gender dysphoria, and they can't really control that. But I think other people can. I think, you know, like I said, there are non-binary people that just, you know.
If gender is like completely arbitrary, why can't you just change your dysphoria, like so that you're not dysphoric anymore?
Well, because gender dysphoria is a mental condition that we've shown that that doesn't
because you like because you feel like you have to be something like the gender that you weren't assigned at birth or like what have you, or you identify with a gender, right? You're a gender that you are not like you do not feel like you're presenting as, or like you don't feel like as if you are, right? And that's like part of like getting like helping people deal with like dysphoria is like, you know, validating that, saying no, you actually are. You feel it internally. Most of the time people are either presenting it or they're wanting to present as it. And yeah, we're going to help those people. But again, my question is if gender is arbitrary, why do those people choose to not just have their preferred gender, be the one that doesn't give them dysphoria.
Well, technically they can. They
can.
choose.
LeftistOwl loves it. He just said it.
Hold on.
Everyone, you heard it here first. If you have dysphoria, just fucking change your gender. Choose your gender to be the one
Just
that you
move.
don't feel. Yeah, that's literally what you just fucking said.
No, they can choose to have surgeries, et cetera, to reaffirm their gender identity.
You just said that they could choose to be the gender, so they don't have to worry about like feeling dysphoria. They don't. They don't need the surgeries. They can just choose not to be that.
No, I'm saying they can choose to reaffirm their gender by getting those surgeries and transitioning socially.
Why can't they just choose not to do that though? Why can't they just choose to have like the gender that doesn't give them dysphoria?
What do you mean?
If you're saying that gender is 100% arbitrary and people can choose to be different genders, right? Because again, I think we can both agree that gender dysphoria isn't like what the end all be all of being a certain gender, right? So you can just say, just choose to be a different gender that alleviates your dysphoria. As opposed to doing all the complicated medical work and all the complicated surgeries and all the complicated stuff, just choose the gender that doesn't give you dysphoria. Why don't they just do that? That feels so much easier. And the only other option is they can either do that because gender is a choice and you can choose it at any point in time, and I can alternate between being a man, a woman, non-binary, back and forth every second of every single day, or they can't. Because there's something underlying there, and us saying that gender is a choice and giving the false impression to people who don't understand that's a choice, that they will literally try. We are giving the best argument possible for the fucking conversion camps. You realize that right now, right? By saying that gender is a choice, people will literally just be like, you can just choose to be the quote unquote proper gender, and they'll force you to do that. And if people can just choose,
if
Are we still here? Did my internet cut?
No, we're still here.
No, we're
Okay.
still here.
Okay, so again, how do we, if we agree that gender is a choice, how are we not just providing the biggest fucking layup imaginable for conservatives and people who don't like trans people to just say, just choose the gender you were assigned at birth? Because apparently that's a thing that we can just fucking do. And any person, what you're saying right now, this actually feels kind of transmedicalist. Because you're saying that we have to work.
Well, no, I think it also is. I think we're kind of lost in the weeds and
these are important questions that I have that you seem incapable of answering, but you'll just call me a transphobe in Twitter instead. So I find it very frustrating. If we really want to just do the dysphoria thing, then we can hash this out first. So you're telling me that everyone who doesn't experience dysphoria can just choose not to be trans?
Sorry, what?
So I'm asking, if we're not talking about dysphoria, right? We're not talking about dysphoria. Everyone who isn't experiencing dysphoria can just choose not to be trans. You can just choose to be whatever gender they want, which includes just not being trans.
I think we might be miscommunicating a bit.
No.
No. Hold on.
Yep. Take however long you need to reframe this. Okay?
No, I'm gonna stop it here. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna reflect and talk with
Absolute fucking thank you. Fine. Get your dumb ass out of here. You literally are talking all this shit, and you come on. You can't fucking defend any of your fucking shit because you haven't fucking thought it through. I have. My position is completely fucking consistent. I will argue for the rights of fucking trans people, and you are fucking pathetic that you will literally harass me for fucking months with this shit. Come on, get basic fucking questions that you probably haven't even thought about because you're in your fucking basic ass bitch Twitter bubble, and you can't fucking answer them. So you sit silently because you can't refund the question. Now you're just gonna fucking dip. Yeah, fucking run away because you can't defend your dumb shit ideology. I'm really fucking sorry. I'm gonna be here fucking based as fuck arguing for the rights of fucking trans people because people who are trans cannot choose not to be trans. Have a good one, buddy.
Yeah. Me admitting that I need to think more about it is totally an own. Okay.
So true.
Like, yeah. Okay, buddy.
Go read more theory. Have a good night. All right. All right. Oh, that was so fucking fun. Thank you.